It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And now my favorite part of the show, wherein I guess what's in Tim's background. And Tim, this week, I know for sure, it's a Venn diagram of everyone who loved Richard Lewis and Mitch McConnell. And I'm the only one in it. Okay. Am I right about that?
Not even close.
All right, what do we got here?
I'm sitting out here waiting for that surge pricing to kick in.
Oh, that is so good. That is so good. And it's funny is somebody was tweeting that I guess Elizabeth Warren is upset about this because I think it's competing with her Pow Wow Chow franchises. It may be, but somebody tweeted that she has probably never eaten at Wendy's in her life. Now, I don't think you need to do that in order to have standing. I mean, do you have to have had sex in order to be a Catholic priest? All right, we'll move on from there. Okay.
Well, no, it's funny to me is that everybody that complains, everybody I see complaining, they all tag it with, not like I'd ever eat there, but
right, yeah,
it's exactly unfair to the people who do. And here's what I think. Here's my take on it. Yeah. It's supply and demand, man. We have the technology now where you can actually set prices to actually fit the supply-demand curve. And what happens when you can do that? The lines go away.
Oh, no, it's a sensitivity to, why wouldn't we want that? We should have more surge pricing. You know what? We should also have surge gun ownership, I think. Like, if there's a certain area in a neighborhood that needs an AR-15, okay. I don't think you need one at the Kansas City Chiefs celebration. Maybe if the Bears win, I could understand that it will have been a long time since
have you ever been to Kansas City? It's not a bad place to be packing.
Exactly. All right. So anyway, speaking of Richard Lewis, I had to get your view on it because you're a stand-up comedian. How did you? It was for me. It was very sad. But what did you think of him?
Well, it's actually kind of funny. I'm on a flight. I'm on a flight home, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do for the next few hours. And I scroll through the series that are available, and here's the new season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I go, Bruce constantly references this, right. So it might behoove me to actually watch some of that the last season of, and Richard Lewis comes on, and honest to God, Bruce, I thought to myself, didn't he die already?
He kind of looked like he was dead too. Did you see the one where he's in the golf cart? Did you see that episode yet?
I did not. I did not get that.
They make a reference. Spoiler alert. They make a reference to including each other in their wills. And it's actually a funny bit because Richard says he's going to put Larry in his will. And Larry says, oh, no, you're just doing that because you want me to put you in my will. That's actually pretty funny.
I saw the episode where they said it will make a deal is anyone who has cancer doesn't have to be anyone's friend anymore.
Oh, it's, I found myself going through Twitter clips of Richard Lewis yesterday. It kind of really hit me. One of the reasons is I actually knew him a little bit. Did you ever meet him?
I never met him. I never met him, but I knew he was a friend of Zany's where I was a regular.
Yeah, he was a friend of Zany's. He was on Steve and Gary many times in like the 80s and early 90s. And, and I would be sitting there, and they basically just sat back and let him go crazy because, he had he had this spasmodic delivery, which was very funny and worked real well for him. And I used to have this bit on Channel 32 called the Hallway Ambush Interview. So I did, he was in town, to promote appearances at Zany's, and I, would accost him in the hallway and he'd have fun with the ambush interview. And I did it 1 year, and then it was back like a year and a half later, and I did another hallway ambush interview. And then, like a year or so later, I had a day off, and he was in town, and he was at our studio to be interviewed by the anchors, and he yelled out, they reported to me, "Where's my hallway ambush interview?" So it was kind of neat that, that it remembered me that way. And it was really nice. It was nice. But I found myself going through some old clips on Twitter yesterday of Richard Lewis. And, some of the Curb stuff is real funny. but some of it seems a little strange and strained, I should say. I mean, and you think I'd love the curb stuff about old Jewish men playing golf, since I'm an old Jewish man who loves golf. But the thing that really made me laugh, and you might enjoy it, he did a stand-up on the Carson show in '82. And, that delivery, and he was talking about his mom or grandma getting change ready while she's in New Jersey for the Golden Gate Bridge toll. They're going cross country. And he's also this stuff about the ridiculously long line in the wee hours at the DMV with people barbecuing and the New Christie Minstrels performing. And he said the New Christie Minstrels. I said, that's the one that stuck with me, because a lesser comic, a wannabe like me, would have gone with Up with People, but he knew that New Christie Minstrels is funny. Up with People is prosaic. It really struck me. And did you see? He was on Candid Camera when he was like 15 years old. He was. They had him. His guidance counselor was telling him that he was best suited for manual labor. And you see his reaction to that. And then he's talking to some fellow student who happened to be a black kid at the time. And, he's like, can you believe it? They want me to do, and, he didn't do a bit over it. He was 15, but
it was just him.
It's amazing, because now I know why he was, kind of a paranoid, neurotic. He probably thought he was on Candid Camera all the time. I mean, I remember growing up, and I once
kind of like that Jim Carrey movie. What was that?
Right, the Truman Show.
Truman Show. Yeah.
Truman Show. I remember growing up and wanting to be on Candid Camera, hoping the Candid Camera was around. And I'll never forget, I once picked up some loose garbage. There he is on Candid Camera. I once picked up some loose garbage on the street, like on Main and Crawford and Skokie, where I lived, thinking, you never know, Candid Camera might be there. I mean, and that's pretty sick. Okay. I mean,
well, depending on what the garbage was, it might be
maybe, what? I think it was quotidian garbage. And it was Up with People garbage. It wasn't New Christie Minstrels garbage. So anyway, all right, let's turn to the news just a little bit. So the AP headline said an Athens man was arrested for the murder of this woman, a student at the University of Georgia.
Oh, so it was a Greek immigrant.
Well, I think the AP journalism is Greek to the AP. Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, that's what they dub him. And, he's an illegal immigrant. And then, of course, the whole argument becomes, well, the rate of crime, of murder among the illegal immigrants is no greater than the crime rate among other Americans. Like, that should be the standard. I mean, I think we want to make sure that the people that we're allowing in are really pristine, not just our garden variety.
We want to bring in non-murderers to actually bring our crime rate down.
Right. We're trying to get the the melting pot to taste a little better that way. So
sweeten up the melting pot. That's,
yeah. Anyway, I'm thinking this has Willie Horton potential. Okay, it's going to be one of those cases where, the liberals are going to get, oh, you're dwelling on this, it's unfair. But when it came down to it, remember what's his face, Pith Helmet, who ran for president, Dukakis. Speaking of Athens, man, Dukakis lets this guy who was in jail for murder and had no chance of parole. No chance for parole. So there's no reason even to let him out on a weekend furlough, to get him accustomed to being back in society, because he's not going to ever get out of jail. Lets him out and he commits a murder. So and it was like considered unfair back then to bring that. I thought it was fair. I thought it was totally fair. And I think this
it was brought. The thing is, back then, the press recycled it. I mean, it once it became a campaign issue, they would talk about it being a campaign issue.
Right.
They are so going to ignore this. What I think is Trump should take a page out of the Democrats' book, and it should show up at this girl's funeral.
Oh my! Oh yeah, yeah. That would be a good one. All right. Meantime, let's talk about the real criminals, not Athens, man. Let's talk about white women. Retail theft, Did you see this?
I did see that.
The FBI puts out a tweet or a video or whatever. Higher prices, dangerous products, and closing businesses. These are just some of the impacts organized retail theft has on everyday Americans, says the FBI in a tweet. Learn what the FBI does to combat these crimes on the federal level to protect shoppers across the country. And the picture is of like two Miss America contestants standing there looking like they're shoplifting. It reminds me of do you remember the old LoJack commercials? You know, that device that was used for your car. And they would show like this fat little bald white guy who looks like he was an accountant trying to jimmy the locks on cars on the street.
My take on this, Bruce, for me, it's really nice to see that two white women are appearing in a commercial without being married.
I mean, at least they could have, and if I'm Dylan Mulvaney, I'm very upset that I'm not in this commercial. I mean, because we're always being portrayed as the pure and innocent ones drinking the Bud Light. We can steal a dress or two. I mean, the
well, that's kind of been proved by Sam Brinkman, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. I mean, let's concentrate on the real criminals. The Miss America circa 1983 contestants who are shoplifting. They're desperate. And thank you, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
But there's something that
Weekly Wrap. So yeah, I mean, who says Joe Biden is ducking the media? He appeared on the Seth Meyers show. Now, somebody had actually tweeted, "See, here's Biden. He's up late at night." Well, the show is taped at like at 4:00 Eastern time.
I wonder how many times they had to tape it so they had a good edit.
I thought for the over/under on the number of takes to get a funny prepared response to the senile question, if that one was even asked. But I love the way Amy Poehler. You think Amy Poehler is really with it. I mean, she had, what was it, Parks and Recreation, whatever. I mean, she's and for her to be a shill for Joe Biden. I mean, we're in an era right now where Bob Costas, and I noticed that, there was a standing ovation from the entire crowd. What are the odds that you're going to get 100%? I mean, I realize that where's it taped in New York? I mean, it's a heavy Democratic state, but what are the odds that the entire audience is going to be Biden faithful? I mean, because everybody was standing, everybody. So
well, here's the thing: if they knew they had to tape it several times.
Oh, okay.
So they had to. So I'm sure that that probably wasn't even the same audience that was there for the rest of the show. It would be interesting to actually, if you could sit through a Seth Meyers episode, it would be interesting to see how many audience members changed between the Biden interview and the regular show.
That was it. So Biden also was, for some reason, he said the secret to his longevity or his life or whatever, other than ice cream, is sex with Jill. Now, who asked him to say that? I would have expected him to say that he had sex with Marlene Dietrich the other day. I mean, but not. But yeah,
it's I like the Clinton administration better when Hillary used to farm that job out.
Sure. So Trump, then I got to admit, it was a little bit funny. Did you see Trump? He had to ad lib because his prompter wasn't working. I mean, he says the prompter's not working. So he started ad libbing and he started doing an imitation of Biden walking around.
He should be careful. He got in a lot of trouble imitating that New York Times reporter, if you remember. You should not try to imitate the disabled. That's what we learned.
Well, was that a New York Times reporter who was disabled? Like, that was disgusting. I mean, that was absolutely disgusting. I would dare say that it was disqualifying. But to imitate your opponent, which he did, and it was.
Since when is a New York Times reporter not a Trump opponent?
Oh, that's for sure. But it's. But I thought it was. okay, his imitation of Biden. I'm always tempted to say that he's Oval Office funny, Trump, if not even that. But I just thought it was interesting that he did spend his time that way. I mean, he had time to kill on that. And then did you see that? So Shane Gillis was the host of SNL this Saturday Night Live this last weekend, and they made a big deal about how the guy's politically incorrect and all that, and he is somewhat, but the guy didn't vote for Trump, so it's not like I mean that's how far they'll go. And he did a bit which was actually pretty funny about Trump's gym shoes. The ones that I think should have been worn in the NBA All-Star game, and that's why they scored 400 points in that game. But he, and the bit was, a takeoff, I guess, on White Men Can't Jump, but it was Trump, Shane Gillis playing Trump, wearing the new Trump gold gym shoes. And he can't make a basket, but because when he plays with the gym shoes on, he thinks he made a basket and can make others around him believe that he made a basket too.
Yeah.
So I mean,
he gaslights people. It's very
total
funny.
gaslighting.
Is that what happened in White Men? I never saw White Men Can't Jump.
Either.
Was it about a pair of magic sneakers?
I don't remember.
Because I think what you're thinking of might be Son of Flubber.
It could be. Yeah, I mean, I saw Flubber and Son of Flubber. So that was in the era of magical potions, elixirs, things like that. If you remember, It Happens Every Spring was a baseball movie with Ray Milland where he was experimenting and he put some kind of little now I'm having a Biden moment here, but some kind of
magic grease on the baseball,
grease or something like that. Yeah, on the baseball, and he was a winner that way. And then at the same time, you have Flubber was Fred McMurray in that one? I can't remember.
He was the inventor of Flubber. He was the absent-minded professor.
So they had that was that era. There were a lot of copycat movies that way, but
there was actually another funny Shane Gillis skit that they cut from the show. It's you can find it online.
The Liberty Mutual one.
You seen the Liberty Mutual one?
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe they cut it. It was hysterical.
Yeah,
I saw it.
It was funnier than anything that had been on Saturday Night Live this year.
Why did they cut it? Did they?
My guess is their advertising liaison said, Liberty Mutual is actually a sponsor. We should probably run this ad by them to see if they approve.
Yeah.
And then the writers at Liberty Mutual saw the skit and said, that's funnier than anything we've ever written.
Yeah, and you know what the problem is? And the Liberty Mutual ads are funny, so it's bad when you've got funny ads
they're not funny. They try to be funny.
Well,
I've never laughed at a Liberty Mutual.
You don't think Liberty Bibbity is funny? I mean, you can't go wrong with a Liberty Bibbity.
I do not.
Is it as funny as an emu that's a psychopath?
It's definitely the funniest insurance commercial is definitely Mayhem. Those are Mayhem Mayhem's number one. I think Flo is number two. Oh no, number two is Dr. Rick Pillows is number two. And I think is that progressive?
You don't think Jake from State Farm, who was replaced by a black guy named Jake from State Farm, the real Jake from State Farm,
that's tied with the Limu Emu. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, Shane Gillis. And just to show fairness, and this is as fair as Saturday Night Live is going to get. Okay, so they lampoon Trump. I get it. But then at the end of the bit, they pass the ball to Joe Biden, and he falls flat on his face trying to catch it. So there is, I mean, for Saturday Night Live, that's balance. And I was absolutely happy with that. So let's go from that to, and then as Gillis as the host, it was kind of interesting. He does humor about Down syndrome kids, and it's sensitive, but it's pretty funny as well. They're happier than anyone else.
Well, it's his niece. It's
his niece, and he also does this bit about how when you're a kid, your mother's best gay friend. And then you hit puberty, and then she's not your friend anymore. And that's a funny bit too. But they were talking in his Down syndrome bit. He talks about some white guys on the playground making fun. It's just, a made up thing.
Oh, he dropped the R word.
Making fun. Yeah. And then black guys come up and yell, "Hey, cracker, what are you doing?" And so he's on the side of the angels there by making the whites the evil ones, so that he's got cover to do his Down syndrome humor. I totally get it. I understand where he's coming from. Let's let white people have got to be the heavy. I totally understand.
The funniest joke for me in that in the monologue, the one that really cracked me up was, if you want to know what my niece looks like, imagine me with bangs.
It was pretty good. All right, let's quickly, in the time we have remaining in this segment, analyze Michigan and what happened as far as Trump's and Biden's chances, the uncommitted vote. You're a Michigan guy. How do you view it?
I think it's election over. That's
oh, really? Why?
Well, they actually did. They found out that in South Carolina, half the voters for Nikki Haley were Democrats, were registered Democrats.
Right.
And I believe Michigan also has an open primary.
Right.
So it was more than just him winning by a 2-1 margin.
Yeah, I mean, the way I've actually heard and read Steve Kornacki of MSNBC, and he's no conservative, saying, "Hey, don't be fooled by the primary results, which show a huge amount of Republicans anti-Trump, because in a general election polls, there's like only 3% of Republicans are ready to turn on him. So it comes down a lot to independents. A lot of it's going to come down to whether these educated Democrats if there are enough of them to come out for Biden right now. I mean, Trump is, he's leading in all the swing states. I don't know if any of that. At
DNC headquarters in Michigan, they say, what did you think about that? I think we're going to have to mail out a lot more ballots this time.
Well, there you go. And then we could have our arguments about whether the election was rigged, but which we won't have, will be moot once Trump wins the election. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
Qualifications. Stampeding cattle. That's not much of a crime. Through the Vatican. Kinky. Sign here.
Why, Rat, how many times have I told you to wash up after weekly cross burning? See, it's coming off.
And now, for my next impression, Jesse Owens. Seize them!
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. So, big controversy over Google, Gemini, their AI. I got to tell you, this is nothing's new under the sun. 50 years ago, in Blazing Saddles, you got Mel Brooks portraying a Klan member as a black guy, Cleavon Little. So, I mean, I totally understand it. Nothing wrong with it. Google did, somebody was saying, because that this was as bad as the new Coke, the way that this was rolled out, this Gemini AI, and that Google hadn't done anything good in anything new or good in 15 years. And I'm thinking, that's like complaining that God hadn't on the 8th day to God, what have you done for me lately? I mean, it's Google. That's all they have to do. So they make a little mistake where they portray. I mean, it's.
Well, I see nothing. We're now in the era of Hamilton casting.
Totally. Totally. And remember, I mean, even Hamilton, poor Lin-Manuel Miranda got pilloried because he wanted blacks to be included in the whole American experiment and have George Washington portrayed as a black man. After that, it became like, oh, no. George Washington, we should tear down the Washington Monument. We should tear down the Lincoln Memorial. All these guys are racists. You don't want to be part of that. So that Lin-Manuel Miranda was an idealist. So
I don't know enough about Hamilton. But were all the slave owners in the play white?
I remember seeing it. Actually, the best way to see it was not in person, which is expensive anyway, was to see it on TV with captions, because that way, and I know that you said you can see things in the theater with captions now too, but otherwise you're not going to get the rap in the song. It was much better. I don't remember that. What I do remember is there was a TV show on TBS called The Detour about this family that was on a vacation that kept going crazy over 3 years, and they wound up having to hide out and everything. And one day they're seeing, basically, it was a parody of Hamilton. It was about the United States Postal Service and how it began. And everyone in that was black, except for Sally Hemings, who was white. So I kind of like that. Yeah, it was fun. And then, the people in the audience, the people who were on the detour, the tourists are sitting there, they're saying, yeah, it's pretty good, but these seats were awfully expensive. So that was their comment on Hamilton. A little bit overrated. But yeah, the Gemini thing is, I mean, it's, garbage in, garbage out. How could they? And they're supposedly going to retool it, but they really can't, because it's the people who are doing the tooling that need to be replaced. And I mean, that's one of the problems.
Sure.
Yeah. Did you see, apparently there's this young New York Times writer, and he tells the story, I think it was in the Atlantic, about how they were all together one day, I think it's the young writers, and he was either eating or mentioned that he liked a Chick-fil-A sandwich. And
I did hear about that.
And he was eviscerated for that.
Yeah.
And
they said, we do not do that here.
Yeah, and they were snapping their fingers.
Yeah.
Against it, which I haven't seen that since West Side Story. But yeah, and that, that's what we were trying to get.
Beatnik poetry night.
Yeah, cool, man, cool, daddy-o. So, but he tried to amend it quickly by saying, "Well, I like the chicken, not the the president of the company." But if that didn't work, and he was shamed.
It's apparently he said that he lied. He didn't even like Chick-fil-A. That he was actually lying because he was worried about being elitist. Because
so he actually made up that he liked Chick-fil-A, and that got him in trouble.
Yeah, the sandwich that he enjoys, the real answer was a $19 sandwich.
Yeah,
and
right.
He did not want his peers to think that he was elitist. So he thought Chick-fil-A was the sandwich of the common man. I don't know what sandwich you could order that wouldn't have opposition. I mean, couldn't say I like to go to Wendy's now.
It's interesting because this with the surge pricing, this approximates the electorate that Steve Kornacki was talking about. Trump is and the Republicans are gaining among non-college educated folk, and the elitists, the Democrats have become an elitist party, or it's when we were growing up, they were the working class party. And that seems to be changing. And if you get a big turnout, it could really, especially among people who don't normally vote, like in special elections or off-year elections, but will vote in a presidential election, that will redound to the benefit of Trump. And there's a perfect illustration. The guy is trying to be like Adlai Stevenson with the hole in his shoe, just plain folks. And it turns out that he's a pig because he picked the wrong sandwich.
Yeah, he ate a homophobic sandwich.
Right. So let us turn to a former liberal, I think, Jerry Seinfeld. He's coming out of an event with Barry Weiss. He liberal? Was he liberal?
Well,
he
was always kind of apolitical, wasn't he?
Well, yeah. I mean, he didn't show it very much in the show, but he's coming out of a Barry Weiss event, and he's got these Palestinians or sympathizers yelling at him and calling him a Nazi, whatever, and not the soup Nazi either. And And I think, at this point, he was offended as a Jew, not as a comedian. He was actually offended that way. It was another interesting story, and it's about.
When did he come out? What did he say about Israel? I don't know.
Oh, I mean, if he's at a Barry Weiss event, Barry Weiss is foursquare in favor of Israel.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
So there was read this article. It's who is doing these protests at the Ivy League universities. They're basically a bunch of darn foreigners at these elite schools. They're well endowed. They pay full tuition.
How do you know that?
They pay full tuition.
That
kind.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's your mind. We've been showing too many pinup pictures the last couple of weeks. So they've got. I mean,
the last thing I want to do is be stuck in prison with some well-endowed Palestinians. Let me tell you.
Well, then you can have like a Larry David episode of Palestinian Chicken. Just mention Theodore Herzl while she's mounting you, and you both reach great points of ecstasy. But anyway, so they're these foreign kids. They're paying full tuition because their parents are loaded, and they serve the purpose of DEI at the schools because they're the so-called minorities. They're not blacks from the west side of Chicago. they're blacks from some and foreigners from some emirate, and so they serve that both purposes. They pay the full tuition. They're serving the quota requirement. I mean, I think at this point, with these darn foreigners in here, it's time to close the border off at Harvard and don't let them into the country. That seems, and that's where you're getting the opposition right there. It's not even Americans mainly. Damn.
Well, the money's been flowing into American universities for a while. I mean, they've essentially followed the German model of the 20s, where they've installed people in all the institutions that
right. Yeah.
are anti-Israel.
It's almost too late. So did you see where Mary Poppins has been canceled?
What?
I don't know if it's a full cancellation, but I guess in Mary Poppins there's a song that talks about the Hottentots being hot or whatever, and or hot to trot with a Hottentot. I'm not sure, but that apparently is verboten. So it's no longer a jolly holiday with Mary, I guess. I mean, if
was it a line in a song, or is it actually a whole song? I don't remember the Hottentots are hot to trot, or is that just part of the Broadway?
I just said the Hottentots are hot to trot, but I mean, there was a mention of Hottentots, and you can't do that. I mean,
in one of the songs, I'm guessing.
I think so. Let's see. It's not supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I remember that. I'd have to go through the whole catalog.
It's not Feed the Birds.
No.
Hottentots a bag.
They're tuppence and Feed the Birds.
Tuppence a bag. Yeah.
Where what else? It's a jolly holiday.
I love to laugh. I love to laugh.
There's
I laugh.
a lot of good songs in there.
I laugh like a Hottentot, maybe. I don't.
Really good songs in Mary Poppins. And while this was coming up, there was discussion of Dick Van Dyke's English accent, which apparently was horrible. I wouldn't know, because that's the first English accent I ever heard was Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah, so I learned an English accent.
That's my English accent. I mean, I also learned how to sidestep an ottoman as well. I mean, Dick Van Dyke was a great role model for me, and I
always wanted to learn how to trip over it like he did, how he could do that.
Yeah, that is even better than the sidestep.
That's a skill.
It's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right, let's show this picture. Do we have Laura Logan and Kyle Rittenhouse? Now, we've shown pictures of Kyle Rittenhouse where he looks like the big boy, and that's a doctored photo. But this is actually Kyle Rittenhouse and Laura Logan together. And speaking of well endowed, and I was just thinking, did he just carry a boner across state lines? That was my big concern. So
That picture looks a little doctored too. We still got that. Looks like they did up the rosy cheeks on him a little bit.
there we go. I'm always fooled. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap.
But meanwhile, we'll be continuing fingerprint analysis, fiber checks, DNA breakdown, hair samples. Then using the microscopic dirt particles on this footprint, it's a matter of getting a geologic breakdown of the entire city.
We may not have that kind of time, Ted.
Then maybe this'll help. We found his wallet on the curb outside the Institute.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. So they're going to do a reboot of The Naked Gun. And I kid you not. I mean, again, I can always be fooled on Twitter, but I think it's genuine. Liam Neeson is going to take the Leslie Nielsen role. And the only reason I could think of this was that Liam Neeson is a name that sounds like Leslie Nielsen. I mean, I just don't see.
No. It's perfect because Liam Nielsen has always been kind of straight, and that's
Right.
what Leslie Nielsen was the same. He always
I
played
agree.
a straight guy. So actually, to see him in comedy with such a strange juxtaposition is that you never expected the jokes to come from him. It's what made it funny. And Liam,
No, I'm sure it'll be good. And Seth MacFarlane's behind it, and he knows what he's doing. I actually
my favorite Liam Neeson movie, by the way,
Yeah.
was the vignette he did for the Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
don't know that.
Oh, you've got to watch it. He plays an impresario in the Old West,
okay.
and it's wonderful.
Okay, I did see a thing where he did a bit with Ricky Gervais, where they were trying to get him. He wanted to do comedy, and they're sitting there, and he's pretending that he got AIDS from a homosexual. It was not the least. They're going like, this isn't working, and he's just deadpanning, and that's the whole thing. He'll deadpan the whole thing. And it'll be funny.
Yeah, he's perfect.
I'll see it. So Charlie Woods, Tiger Woods' kid, who I don't know how old he is. Is he like 14 now or something? He actually competed in a preliminary round to get into a PGA tournament, and he shot an 86, including a 12 on one hole, which, I mean, that's not good.
See? You see, Tiger, you want your kid to be in golf, you got to beat him like your dad did. That's you can't. You raised that kid too nice. That kid was too privileged to actually.
No, I'm thinking that maybe golf talent is generation skipping. And maybe Charlie Woods' kids will be great golfers. It's still early. So
the thing is too, he was so successful, he was able to marry a bimbo. Is basically what he should have done. He should have married a lesbian because they're better at golf than models.
Well, when we should have some sort of, especially to compete with the Chinese, are building a lot of golf courses. We should have a genetic program, and Tiger at the very least. I mean, okay, let him marry Elaine Nordgren. I get that. But at the very least, you're onto something here.
Get some Tiger DNA and use it for it for one of the lady golfers and her girlfriend.
Absolutely. And
got you a little Tiger DNA here.
That's the way it should have been done.
Yeah, but then he's going to be raised with two moms, so I don't know if that's the optimal place for. He's not going to have the discipline.
Well, you're saying what talk about stereotyping, like the moms can't discipline. I mean, seriously.
Well, that's the thing. I think a kid that's raised with two moms probably won't be able to throw a baseball very well, but he'll be the only kid in high school that wants to walk in on his parents.
Well, I walked right into that one, didn't I? Yeah, that was a great one. There's nothing like lesbian jokes. Okay, so let's turn to baseball right now. Whee! It's spring training, and I don't know about you, Tim, but I remember when everybody's talking about the first sounds of spring training. And I remember
pitchers and catchers, which used to mean something different when we were boys.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bob Elson doing the games on the radio, you could hear the pitch hit the catcher's mitt. And, what happened to me, and I think it was puberty. I think that's what happened. And then But these
Like,
guys,
just like
talk
Shane
about,
Gillis.
yeah, right. These guys, it all circles around. These guys, they're writing about. I mean, they're so excited about the pitchers and catchers reporting, and they're grown men. They're talking about this, and and every single thing that goes on, I just
Could you actually hear the ball hitting the mitt, or do you think they actually just had a mitt and a ball right there by the mic and did like
in the
sound
old
effects
days?
like Ronald Reagan did?
I don't think Ronald Reagan, he
Had a stick
didn't
and a
have
wood
that
block and it's a hit.
he he did not have the versatility to do the sound effects. Look, I know because I started out, I may have told you before, my first job in radio was in the 1940s as Jack Benny's sound man. I made the sound of his trousers chafing against each other as he strode across the stage. All Reagan did on WHO was use the ticker to announce the games, and he had but no sound effects. And the guy was such a bad ad libber that one time the ticker got stuck, and Billy Jurgis was up for the Cubs, and he kept saying Billy Jurgis fouls went off. He had like 14 foul balls before the tickers kicked in and worked again. I mean, couldn't he have brought in a rain delay or something, or somebody
coaches walking up to the mound right now. It's
or Morgana the kissing bandit had run onto the field, something like that. But no, so Jurgis just kept fouling stuff off. So the Sun-Times sports guy, and I like this guy. I mean, even though the Sun-Times isn't what it used to be, but he's the sports columnist. His name is Jeff Agrest, and he was talking about the new White Sox announcer. And so he does this tweet, and he says, and he mentions the name of the new Sox announcer, and he says that the guy's name is Schifrin. And as we have discussed on this show, I said everybody would say that this guy was Schifrin, just like everybody in Chicago says Kaminsky Park and Soldiers Field, because the guy's name is Schriffen, not Schifrin. Okay. And I corrected Jeff, and he actually thanked me for that. But I mean, if you're going to call him, and I think we should just stick with the mistake and call him Schifrin. It's really a mission impossible to change it to Schriffen. Okay.
There was a store in the mall.
Did everybody get that? Chris, get that joke? Did you get that joke, Chris?
I missed the joke.
Because it's Lalo Schifrin wrote the Mission Impossible theme. See, nobody got that joke.
Wow. No,
you'll want to, when you edit this, you'll put the Mission Impossible theme underneath. Okay. Sure. Yeah, good question. All right.
I remember there was a store in the mall in my youth called Schifrin Willens, I think. It was
there you go.
It was a mall store in the 70s.
Let's grind. What kind of store?
I think so. I think that's what it was. It was in the mall in the 70s, I think. Schifrin
and what
Williams.
did they sell?
I thought it was women's clothes.
And of course you would go in there because on Wednesdays you like to go shopping and put on women's clothes. Pardon my Monty Python routine. All right. So I don't even know if I want to talk about the White Sox Stadium right now.
It seems like yesterday that they were complaining about Kaminsky, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That it's so run down. It's heritage. Look across town. What makes that team so popular? Do you think it's just the WGN broadcast? No. It's the ancient stadium.
That's a prettier ballpark than Comiskey ever was, though. Don't you think? With the vines.
I don't know.
Yeah, come on. In the neighborhood, and
they kept the neighborhood.
Oh, Chris is saying no. He's a big White Sox guy. I grew up a White Sox fan too, but I mean the ballpark, the old ballpark, the new park is awful compared to the old one, and neither one is as pretty as Wrigley Field is to watch a game. It's just my opinion. Hey, we do have to mention that Tom Skilling, the weather guy, retired. Did you ever watch a Tom Skilling weather forecast? I mean,
I have.
Okay, all right. So you're qualified. I would like AI to have my iPhone read me the weather in the voice of Tom Skilling in the future. I already have the voice of Mark Giangreco hurling thinly disguised racial epithets. So it would be, we could have
So
Tom Skilling live.
You would like the
forever.
voice of Tom Skilling coming from the image of Cheryl Scott.
Well, here's the thing about that. So the other night, my wife wanted to watch The Good Doctor on Channel 7, and I kind of watch it while I'm doing puzzles. So the show got interrupted 5 minutes in for a Cheryl Scott filibuster on the crazy weather the other night, which we didn't care about because by this time the storm was in Indiana. So the short answer on Cheryl, I mean, she's great. She's able to vamp for a long time. She's a worthy successor to Skilling as Chicago's preeminent weather forecaster. Okay, now here's the snark about her.
So you're watching Cheryl Scott and the wife walks in. Did you kind of feel like you had to close the laptop right away?
I had to keep it open to pretend that I was still doing the crossword puzzle. So that was kind of difficult. So here's the snark. I mean, I like Brant Miller. Also, Cheryl, if you're going to be on for 20 minutes like that and you're preempting primetime programming, could you at least do a couple of wardrobe changes during your appearance? She was wearing like this very modest black outfit. I'm thinking, what the weather was like that night, a couple of nights ago. How about a little Marilyn Monroe 7-year itch number with a wind machine to approximate the weather out of the West? Yeah, that would have been creative thinking, because if you're going to interrupt the Good Doctor for that,
sure,
you got to do that. So anyway, I'm thinking the next big retirement in Chicago broadcasting, it will have to be Svengoolie. And hopefully, I hope not.
Why would you leave that gig? Why would you leave that? What a great gig.
Well, actually, I mean, Svengoolie is a gig that it would be helpful to the character to actually die while you're still the vampire. To be Svengoolie. But
he was originally son of Svengoolie, and then
look, I know the history.
So there, maybe there could be a Svengoolie the third, huh?
Hey, from your lips to Satan's ears, Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.